it would make the wars in the Middle East and in Europe right now and Ukraine seem like an afterthought by comparison. It could potentially mean the end of U.S. status as a superpower if Taiwan were coercively annexed. And by the way, this is not me calling for war. Okay, quite the opposite. I fought in wars. I'm the last person on earth who wants to ever see the United States in a position of having to fight a war. The key is deterrence.
Well, let's talk about that. And first, on Taiwan's level, is it possible for Taiwan to arm itself sufficiently to defend itself in the same way that the United States is arming Ukraine to defend itself against Russia?
Yeah, so in terms of deterring or repelling an invasion, geography is Taiwan's friend, whereas geography did not help Ukraine because they were right up against Russia's border.
Yeah.
But when it comes to a protracted war, in the event that we end up in a weeks or months long or worse kind of a scenario, a years-long war like we're seeing in Ukraine, geography is no longer Taiwan's friend because it's so far away from the United States, because it doesn't share a border with friendly countries on its eastern and northern flank. The key is that we want Taiwan to be able to hold out in a short conflict or in the initial phase, the initial weeks of a protracted war, long enough for the United States and Japan and Australia in particular to come to Taiwan's aid.
So you would anticipate then at some point U.S. troops are on the line. Americans are being killed, perhaps.
Yes, I don't think that Taiwan would be able to survive a protracted conflict without Americans being involved in that war. So we need to show that we have both the capability and the will to fight in order, paradoxically, to not have to fight in the first place. That's what the essence of peace through strength is.
You've actually got a chapter in this book that is called Sink China's Navy. I guess that's what you're talking about here.
Exactly. So my co-authors and I judged that China's center of gravity in a conflict, if China wants to win control of Taiwan, its navy is the most important component. And if we can hold that navy at risk, sink their navy, and demonstrate in advance of a war that we have the capability to sink their navy, it's far less likely that Xi Jinping is going to roll the iron dice of war and take such a big risk by trying to start a fight.
Does the United States even have to be prepared for a nuclear exchange? Because this is a nuclear-armed country.
Yeah, so one of the negative lessons that we should be learning, and I fear that China has learned from Vladimir Putin's nuclear saber rattling, is that Americans get really spooked easily by threats of nuclear war. But we need to just have a little bit of grit, a little extra backbone, and remember, Vladimir Putin is not suicidal, even though I think he's reckless. Xi Jinping is not suicidal, and he's less reckless than Vladimir Putin. I don't think that the risk of nuclear war is high at all.
And I want to underline what that calculation would be. That would be this president or a future president saying, this conflict is starting, I'm going to send in American troops against Chinese troops and discount the risk that it would escalate to something nuclear.
Yeah, I mean, we have a massive nuclear deterrent, much bigger than China's. I think that these are forms of psychological warfare that we need to be prepared for.